What's going on, everyone, and welcome to episode 156 of the Junkies Podcast. Today I'm chatting to Brad Frazier, but you all may know him as Hourglass Ingenuity. Brad runs a really cool YouTube channel centered around welding, machining, and designing. It was great chatting with him and discussing his welding journey, as well as talking about some of the really cool tools and parts that he designs, manufactures, and sells on his website. I highly encourage you all to check out his YouTube channel, as well as his Instagram page. Today's episode of the Junkies Podcast is brought to you by Rockmount Research and Alloys. Rockmount makes the rods and wires you need to get out of a jam. When your 7018s and your 70S6s aren't making the cut to perform your specialty maintenance welding needs, give Rockmount a call. Whether it's steel, aluminum, stainless, or even cast iron, or you're not even sure what it is, Rockmount has the perfect filler wire to get your equipment back up and running. Downtime is expensive, so why not repair it right the first time with Rockmount Research and Alloys? Check them out today at rockmountwelding.com. We're also brought to you by Everlast Welders. New to welding? Or maybe you've been doing it for a while. Maybe you need something for the home or the small business to get those parts turned out. Check out the full line of MIG, TIG, stick, multi-process, and plasma cutting machines today at everlastwelders.com. I'm currently running the 255 EXT with the external PowerCool W400 water cooler. Make sure to use code word ARCJunkies in the comments section at checkout to get that free Nova foot pedal and TIG torch upgrade when you buy any machine that comes with a stock foot pedal. We're also brought to you by the finest fabrication tools on the market. That's right, I'm talking about Fireball Tool. They have some of the most durable tools on the market to speed up your fabrication and help increase the accuracy of your parts. Whether it's the different squares, clamps, or shims, these tools are all high quality and built to last. Designed and engineered by a welder, for a welder. Hit up fireballtool.com and get 10% off your first order when you sign up for their newsletter. And one last thing before we get into the show, if you are a high school student and you're in the Midwest area, make sure to sign up for the American Welding Academy welding competition taking place on February 6th. For more information, hit up awaweld.com or call 636-800-9353. All competitors will receive a $1,000 scholarship and a competition t-shirt. But you better hurry. Registration ends this Friday, January 15th. All right, folks, you know what time it is. Fire up your machine, drop your hood, and turn me up 5.
You're listening to the Junkies Podcast. Helping you make every weld better than your last with each episode. And now your host, Jason Becker.
All right, welcome to the show, man.
How's it going, man?
Going pretty good, man. It's I still got some time off from the school before I get back in there, so it's kind of nice. Little holiday break in between, cleaning some stuff up around the house, but I see you're pretty busy.
Yeah, I'm trying, man. It's been a little slow for the last couple months trying to get everything together, but I'm finally ready to roll.
I see you got some new equipment in the shop.
Yep, just picked up a Haas mini mill that landed the other day. I've had it for a few days now. I've been playing with it. Awesome machine. Got a new table from Stronghand, one of their Build Pros. A couple Everlast machines.
How are you liking the Build Pro?
It's pretty nice.
Okay.
Yeah, it's beefy. It's about 14-ish 100 pounds, I believe. I could be wrong. Plus or minus 100 pounds.
I've got a smaller area, so I'm going with the Rhino cart.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Rhino cart looks nice, too. I think that still has a 1/2-inch top on it.
Yep.
Black oxide coated. Gorgeous. Gorgeous table.
No, it's a nice setup they got there. And then they, what the hell is the new one I seen Dabs Wellington was messing around with, where you can kind of rotate everything. That thing is sick.
Yeah, so even in, like, whether it's pipe or whatever you're doing on that thing, man, even, like, what I see useful with that specific product is mounting a vise to it, a tube vise, and then welding, like, exhaust and stainless tube like I do, and just being able to rotate that thing all over the place and get to everything. Mm-hmm. It's a cool setup.
Yeah. So I got to ask, because there's not too many machine. So I have a hard time defining, and maybe defining is not the right word, whether you're a welder, turn machinist or machinist turn welder because you do both of them so well. So I've seen other machinists that can weld, and I've seen other welders that can machine, but you do both to such a high degree of proficiency. What do you kind of identify as, like one over the other? What's like what was your thing originally?
Man, there's so many smart people out there that I'll never call myself a machinist. But what I can say is I try and do everything to the best of my ability. I put 120% into everything I do, whether it's welding, machining, 3D printing, modeling. I try and do it as best as I can. But I started off welding. 3.5 years ago, I started off welding. And got my first job at a production shop, got thrown into the grinding room way too many times, finally worked my way up, started finding better jobs. And then naturally with welding, you just want to learn how to machine. And sometimes people don't put enough time into one or the other, so they're less skilled in one aspect versus the other, just because there's a ton of work. I mean, you're always busy doing one thing. So if you're trying to make money in one process, it's hard to stay in practice with another. But yeah, man, welder to wannabe machinist. It's been fun.
And machining is something I've always been fascinated with because, like in the welding shop that, where I first started, there was a small manual lathe there. And there wasn't any tooling, there wasn't any parts. So, like, we couldn't do anything with it. But it always just sat there, and it always kind of intrigued me, and I'd never really seen it being used. And then when I got out of when I went through the military and got into my first duty station, we were attached to a machine shop. So machining and welding has always, for me in my experience, has always gone hand in hand. I've always had access. So I would like take parts over to the machine shop, or they would bring us parts to, hey, oops, we over milled this or overturned this. Can you build up, do some material build up, surface build up, so that we can kind of correct this mistake. And, we would have specific parts that had to have very accurate hole patterns, something you can't just do with a center punch and a cordless drill. So we would take parts over there, or they would mill stuff down, or, knurl, items and stuff that we had to weld in production. So the two just always kind of went hand in hand. And now that I'm teaching, like right outside my classroom, like literally right outside the door is a full scale machine shop. So there's, I want to say 4 Haas mills in there, fully automatic or automated CNC, a manual lathe, or 2 Bridgeport manual mills. So I get to tinker around. Nothing with the CNC stuff, but like with the manual lathe, I can go over there and kind of do hole layouts, but I'm not milling anything other than like the backing strip off of a test plate. So I kind of wanted to pick your brain. Did you get formal training with the machining aspect of it, or where can I go? Because there's something that I'm really interested in. I kind of have access to the machines. I want to learn it. I don't have the time in my schedule to go take a full course.
Absolutely. So basically, man, everything that I know how to do, I learned off of YouTube and reading books, reading online stuff, different stuff like that. I love reading like that. I was never good at school, but I'm good at watching and learning. So when it comes to the machining side of things, I was welding, but I wanted to make things specifically and weld them. You know what I mean? So I wanted to design them. That turned into DXF files and water jet and laser parts. And then that turned into kind of 3D models. And then I needed to figure out how to make those 3D models come to life. So I use Fusion 360 for my design software for everything, really. That's just a one-stop shop for me. But yeah, just watching YouTube, trial and error. I started off building my own little machines so I could kind of have an idea. Then I transitioned into like a CNC router. And then I was just cutting like aluminum sheet metal and welding just aluminum sheet metal stuff together. And then that transitioned into operating a CNC mill. And then that just the kind of need for me wanting to create my products and keep everything in-house and keep my attention to detail and my level of quality at a certain, bar, whatever. I had to learn how to do it. So just all self-taught, man.
Okay. And so you're pretty much on your own now. You're not working for the man anymore. You've got everything set up. You got your own business set up. You got your YouTube channel. I got to ask, how do you find time to do the YouTube content? Because I know what it takes to just put together a simple video. It's almost, people don't realize, when you put like a 10 or 15 minute video out, you've probably got 4 hours or more in filming and editing, because everything's got to be filmed 2 to 3 times because you got to get the right camera angle. You got to put the right words in the right places when you're doing your narrations and stuff, all the editing and stuff that goes in there. So where do you find time to do that on top of designing, welding, putting out products for customers?
It's tough, man. I haven't put a video out in 150 days.
Oh, he's got a timer.
I've been flooded with everything else. You kind of have to find that point in your life where you have time for one or the other. And sometimes it's just down to business and making it happen. If I free myself up and I have a little free time, I can put out a YouTube video. But yeah, short of doing that video with Joel at Overkill Racing and Chassis on that MIG like TIG, that video just went over 1 million views, which is super awesome. And that's like one of the last videos I did. So as soon as I get up to speed and I get a little productive and I kind of have a flow going, then I can jump back into it. But you're absolutely right. Cut.
Yep.
I don't want to sound dumb. Cut. All right, let's do this again.
Oh yeah.
So man, some of these videos take 2-3 days, to go through and make sure everything's all right. And you go back and get your B-roll and whatnot. Arc shots are so hard alone.
Yep.
But yeah, no, having somebody shooting for you, especially that knows what they're doing, goes a long way, especially on like weld.com.
Oh, I could imagine, because the camera guy, he kind of keeps me in check with a lot of things, like, because a lot of times when you're behind the camera and you're speaking, sometimes, you're not 100% sure what comes out of your mouth, and he'd be like, nope, cut, so he kind of helps me along with that. And then like with the videography and all that stuff, like he knows what he's doing with that. That's his wheelhouse. I couldn't imagine having to learn how to operate one of those cameras that he runs. I got to do a little bit of the editing and stuff a couple of times, but even that he sits there and plays with it. Like I guess like I would go over and dial in a welding machine and set something up to do, either a gas tungsten arc welding process or flux core. That's kind of like my thing. He understands the camera, the editing, and all that stuff, kind of like I understand welding.
Yep.
So, I mean, that helps definitely, but I mean, you kind of do all this solo, right?
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
I have help.
That's a hell of an undertaking.
The significant other here and there when I can. And, but most of it's run a bead, look at the camera. Okay, let's change the ISO, or let's change this up a little bit, shoot another one. Okay, that's okay. And I'm never happy with it, but it's just like acceptable. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, and sometimes you can't just go back and redo the weld, because limited material, and I mean that's the piece that you had, and you don't want to cut it back apart. It's done.
Absolutely.
No, I 100% understand. So I really wanted to get with you on where do you come up with the designs or the products that you make, because you're coming up with solutions for problems that I didn't know I had. And then I look at the tooling and it's like, I need this in my life. So do you just lay in bed at night all, just thinking things up, or are these coming sporadically, or do you actually have these problems around the shop to where you've got to come up with these solutions?
It's a little bit of a mix. Sometimes I have the problem. Sometimes I'm looking for the problem. I don't sleep that great. I don't rest. I'm not good at not working. So all of that kind of assists in helping me with these things. But at the same time, man, like trying to be creative, come out with new products, have those products look kind of for the aesthetic you're going with. The tool paths have to be perfect. I'll make 20 revisions on a part before I'll even run the actual final one until I'm like, okay, this is perfect. This is good. So some of the things are just like, you kind of look around the shop and you say, man, like, what can I improve here? And that's where like the torch holder came about. Like, I'm not a big fan of the yellow one from any local welding supply. And it kind of got in the way. That's why I made mine go underneath the table. Then there's some tables you can't, like Siegmund's and Strong Hands and stuff like that. You have to go on top. So, and then the tape measure holder, like, that's going to be a fun one. I mean, nobody likes the pocket clip. And if you do, good for you.
Yeah.
But I don't.
You like replacing your pants.
Not a big fan.
Yeah.
So just little things like that, just kind of looking around and seeing what can I improve? What's going to increase my workflow? You know what I mean? Like, how can I be more productive?
No, the tape measure thing, that kind of blew my mind, because I've seen, like, I had, it's retained by a magnet, right?
Yep.
So there's one that they sell at the Home Depot or whatever that I wore for a couple of weeks. but it's just too big and bulky because it's like a leather pad with a magnet on there. I mean, it made life a lot easier grabbing the tape measure and popping it off and everything. But it was just really big and bulky. I mean, yours kind of conforms to the exact tape measure that I currently use anyway. So I'm looking forward to these dropping.
Trying to keep that off of or as close to your body as possible is ideal, because you walk around a welding table and you smack it off or whatever. A lot of people really want me to make the Fat Max, the 25-foot Fat Max tape holder. And I'm just like, I went and bought one. I don't use a 25-foot tape. I kind of like hold it up to my hip and I say, man, you are gifted and disciplined to be able to run around with a 25-foot tape on your hip all the time. That's a big tape measure.
I mean, like when I did ironwork, I always used the Stanleys, but I fell into it and I bought the Fat Max. And for the work that I was doing, it was probably the worst possible tape measure that I could buy. Because, working up high and everything, if you drop that thing after 20 feet, impact, boom. I mean, it just turns into confetti. Absolutely. The solid steel Stanley, 25-foot tape measure, the stainless steel looking color, very similar to the 12-footer you have in your Instagram photo. That's what I use in a 25-footer, because I've dropped that thing from 40 feet and just, yell back down to the ground, hey man, toss that back up. Or, you get your tape measure back and it's got some dents and scratches on it, but the Fat Max, man, you drop that thing one time and it's toast. It's that plastic shell. I've never been a big fan of them.
It's fine. I just don't need a blade that wide.
Yeah.
I don't need
I mean, for a lot of the stuff that you're
blade.
doing, you got smaller parts and things like that.
Just cutting bandsaw stock and just working off of a small table, I definitely see the place for a larger tape, but 12-foot all the way for me. Compact, light, just nice and easy.
Yeah, I like the slimline design of it too, because like you said, the other one, like the one I was using, it would probably stand off about 3/4 of an inch in addition to the tape measure itself. So it was constantly getting knocked off my hip and all that, and it just turned into more of a pain in the ass than it was worth.
Absolutely.
So I scrapped that.
Yeah, I'll get you one over as soon as I pull them off the machine and get them coated, man. I'll shoot you one over and let you run it and see what you think.
Yeah, I'll definitely test that out for you. So how many times do you like rework and redesign, and do you ever get to the point where you're like, okay, I've put enough time and effort into it, this isn't going anywhere, it's not coming up to what I think, and it just ends up in the scrap bin?
Man, sometimes I'll sit there for 2-3 days straight on the computer just trying to figure something out, changing up the geometry, and then you get to a point where you're like, you know what, this isn't going to work, or this isn't a good enough idea, or I can't make the solution or the problem I'm trying to solve better than the problem that currently exists. Mm-hmm. Or I induce another problem just trying to make up for something else. So, I have 50 plus designs sitting in my, on my computer that I thought were great ideas, and they just never made the cut. And I try and do it as rapid as possible. Like the Hourglass Ingenuity thing came from like rapid prototyping, just being, using ingenuity and a little bit of time to try and figure something out. And if I can't figure something out in a few days, it doesn't make the cut. It's just, I can't sit there and do R&D or prototyping for months at a time. And most of my products are pretty simple. They don't have a lot of components. So that's kind of how I go about it.
So you got a pretty strict schedule when it comes to concept, research and development, design, and then prototype and implementation.
It's just too easy for somebody else to take your idea and turn it into something else. So if I sit there for, 2 months trying to figure something out and then come out with it, and then 2 weeks later, somebody else has already whipped one up and they're machining them and trying to sell them, it's just not worth my time. Mm-hmm. So I'll come out with 2-3 days. I'll come out with an idea, machine it. Everybody likes it. Fantastic. I'll make a version 2, version 3 to improve on it if it does well. But other than that, like, I'm not going to give somebody else my idea and let them run with it. So I'm just going to be quick and keep transitioning from product to product to product to product. You want to copy me? I'll change my design, and then I will change the product. Like mm-hmm. I don't have one idea. I have a whole lot of ideas, and that's the only thing that's going to keep me in business, really.
Okay.
So
I will admit that, a couple of years ago, I did steal one of your designs. Not to reproduce and make a profit off of it, but I turned it into a student project. You had like a little arm brace Hourglass Ingenuity TIG fixture.
Okay.
You had like the little hourglass base, and then there was a post that comes up vertically, and then an arm that comes off sideways.
Yep.
And I kind of took that concept and just had because we were propping up on like the bars and the leaning on the machine, and you know, because when you're TIG welding, you want to be as stable as possible.
Absolutely.
So I was like, well, why not just, you know, I seen that design pop up in my Instagram feed. I was like, let's build a couple of these. And we just turned it into a project with the school. And, you know, I've probably got 5 or 6 students that are running around that have one that they actually built. And then I use mine all the time at the school. You know, I've got magnets on and it's a freaking brilliant idea. Once again, it solved the problem that I really didn't know existed, because I've always, you know, grabbed a block or a chunk of steel or, you know, a piece of pipe or something and tacked it onto the table, just used it as an armrest. And it's just a really simplistic, cool design.
Absolutely. And like I said, I'm not the first one to make a hand rest. I don't, you know, that's my thing is when you try and reproduce something, you lack imagination to change it, and then you mass produce it. That's where I'm a little irritated with certain things. But I 100% encourage anybody to make their own stuff. Absolutely. Like take a concept or an idea, use it as inspiration, and twist and turn it into something that will benefit you. You don't need to buy my product. If you can make your own, absolutely go for it. And then as for like the hand rest, I mean, you don't really understand how much you need it until you have it.
Yeah.
Especially with the little angle adjustment and stuff, and you're going downhill or uphill, or just depending on, you know, the alloy or the geometry and the fit up and whatnot. But it's a great tool, man. And the most, you know, you can be one of those real tough guys. It's like, oh, you just got to figure it out. Just burn your hands. And, you know, or you can,
I never understood that mentality.
No, you be as comfortable as possible, and it shows, you know what I mean? If you're uncomfortable, it shows. So,
and I get a lot of students in the program that, you know, I walk into the booth and I'm like, what are you doing? And, you know, they're like way out of position, really uncomfortable, which is great, but not like within the first day or two of learning that process.
Oh yeah.
It's like, you got to get in there, prop up, get as comfortable as you can. You know, I've got it written on the wall, ABCs of welding, always be comfortable. And
absolutely
understand the fundamentals, the basics, figure out how to identify the puddle, you know, and what you're doing before you start to challenge yourself. You know, get the basics down. Let's start crawling before we walk. Let's walk before we run. So I think having that stability, and then once you get into a production shop, the objective isn't to, you know, how hard or unsafe can I make this task at hand? It's, you know, how efficient can I get this done? How fast can I get it done? And how safe can I get it done? I mean, that will always translate
into out of position work, anything that's uncomfortable when you're laying on your back, using your knee as as your foot for the pedal. Like if you learn how to read that puddle first, and then you can step out of your comfort zone. Then you can start resting on your pinky, or you start using a TIG finger and getting a little crazy with it.
Exactly.
But if you don't know how to work the puddle, then being uncomfortable, those two things don't go together.
Yeah, don't put the cart in front of the horse. Figure out how to get it right first, and then start challenging yourself.
Or you walk up and you see somebody with their TIG torch there, and they're kind of halfway propped on something, and they're just shaking like a leaf.
That's my problem, because I get locked in, and then like the muscle just kind of starts twitching, and it's like, okay, just calm down, relax here. Especially if I've had like too much coffee or something in me.
Absolutely.
You know, you start getting the shakes, and you're like, well, I'll just use that as I'll use that as a natural oscillation to my puddle. Kind of like like a little pulse action going on there.
3 cups of coffee and I can do an auto weave.
There you go. That's pretty much it. That's how I weld, you know, first thing in the morning on coming into school and everything. I got about 2-3 cups of coffee. I mean, it's like, all right, let's do this. And you just got the little handshake.
Yep. Very cool.
So what do you have as far as like different designs and stuff? What do you have coming out other than the little tape measure accessory that you're kind of working on?
So I'll be doing that. I have a new torch holder that I'm coming out with that uses torsion spring as well as some ball bearings to like smoothly insert and remove your torch from this torch holder. And that'll fit 9s, 20s, 17s, 18s, 26s. That'll fit the whole 9. One arm has a deeper radius than the other arm, so your torch has that natural 15-degree angle on it. That'll sit in there perpendicular to the ground, real nice and square. And those torch holders are basically just for dudes that run, you know, big Pyrex cups and stuff like that. Just somewhere to keep it, just in case you don't throw it off your table and bust it on the ground.
That's my problem, and it's very similar, like you said, the magnetic ones you get from the weld supply shop. I mean, they're all right, but it never sits in there correctly. And anytime you walk by the table and you know, kick the lead or anything like that, it literally like jumps out onto the floor. Nosedive, you know, head first, especially if you know, you just drop some money on a nice Furic Pyrex cup and everything, and you turn around and it's like, you know, a heartbreak every freaking time.
Oh yeah. They get expensive when you get reckless, especially when you're doing tube work and stuff, man. I'll break cups all the time.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I haven't broken that many. But that's exactly the deal. I was using a regular torch holder. I just didn't like it. I wanted something just a little bit better. And then over time, all your designs will kind of run through just evolution and get better and better and better. So besides the torch holder and the tape measure deal for the 12-foot and the 25-foot Fat Max that I'm working on, we're working on a kind of universal regulator wrench that will have things here and there for TIG consumables, as well as a line on the back of your machine and then your regulator. That'll kind of be just a multi-tool for the welder. Nothing out of necessity. This isn't an absolute need. These are for people that like shiny things and, you know, like to pick up things and, you know, accessorize.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty good, you know, setup too, because when you think about it, I've got one of the old Apex. Well, I don't own one because I throw them out as soon as I get them, but the old Apex wrenches, that's meant for all the fittings on your oxy fuel torch and things like that. And the first thing I do when I take it, you know, a torch out of the box is throw the wrench away that came with it.
Yep.
Just because it really doesn't fit on anything, and it's too thin to get a bite on anything. You can't. It's not really user friendly. You know, I always resort back to the all 16ths, as my buddy Bingo Welds likes to call it, the crescent wrench, and that's pretty much. I mean, I've got one on my weld cart right now, right behind me. I've got the crescent wrench right there because, you know, instead of tying up two wrenches and keeping it there, I just throw the crescent wrench on there. You know, but if you come out with something like that that's usable and dedicated for both those lines, you know, you set it on the back of the machine, you're all good to go because you're constantly swapping out bottles or flow meters or adding in dual stage flow meters so that you can do purging and all that stuff.
Absolutely. And just like a dual flow or a Pyrex cup or a ceramic cup or some fancy tungsten or a nice back cap, I mean, it's just like, you know, if you're a video editor and you shoot stuff all the time, you have a bunch of different lenses and you have a bunch of different microphones and this, that, and the other. It's no different. You know, there's tools that assist. And don't get me wrong, a crescent wrench is one of my favorite tools. Mm-hmm. So it makes it happen no matter the job most of the time. But the billet factor, you know, making something out of aluminum or titanium and having it anodized and colored and, you know, just a gorgeous piece of tooling, you know what I mean? So it's just fun. It's just fun, that, and then, you know, the little magnetic hood hooks and stuff like that. So it's just I just like making nice things for people, and there's definitely a good group of people out there that do appreciate it.
And I will say that, like, last week I talked to Nate Bowman and Rush Kane about, you know, we were talking about branding and stuff like that, and your weld is your signature. It's very similar to the stuff that you put out, because when you put out a tool, an accessory or whatever, I don't necessarily have to see your name in the upper left-hand corner or a watermark to be able to identify that and say, hey, that's Brad Frazier's. He's come up with that. That's from, you know, Hourglass Ingenuity. You can tell. I mean, that's part of your branding. The build style, the structure, the flow of the item, they're very similar, you know, so, I mean, you can tell that that's one of your pieces when you put something out there.
Man, if you just take the time and you developed, you know, I really like the kind of futuristic space theme stuff. I like texture. I like a bunch of different curves, and the lines mean a lot to me. So exactly. There's a lot of dudes that I follow on Instagram. I can say, okay, that's definitely this guy. These TIG welds are this guy. This machine work is this guy. You know, developing a signature for yourself, no matter the craft, is absolutely the most important thing, so you can set yourself apart. As soon as you can start posting stuff up that people can scroll through and they can say, oh, I know who that is, and they don't have to look at your name, you're doing something right. So I appreciate that.
No, definitely. And I mean, it's literally, it's just like a signature, just like a weld. It's very easily identifiable.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with the show. This segment of the Arc Junkies podcast is brought to you by AHP Welders. I've been using the AHP machines from time to time, and for the price, you can't beat the performance. If you're wanting to pick up an entry-level machine without all the cost, check out ahpwelds.com today. This segment is also brought to you by Strong Hand Tools. I own several Strong Hand tools myself, and they're the brand I trust for doing all of my layout work. They have a full line of clamps, magnets, tables, and accessories to help take your fabrication skills to the next level. Check them out today at stronghandtools.com/ArcJunkies. Let's get back into the show. So what other things, I mean, do you typically like take orders from people for specific items when you're not building and prototyping? I mean, do you have like a regular machine shop, weld shop set up to where you're doing auto parts and different things like that? Or is it just 100% prototyping, building, designing, engineering?
Pretty much. I mean, for a few years now, I've kind of been offering different stuff to the Instagram community, and most of that was just a side hustle from a day job. Mm-hmm. So now bringing that into the home shop and saying, okay, we're going to do this full time, it's sink or swim. Let's see what happens. Whether or not I take on some job shop work here and there or do some design work and prototyping for different individuals, that's always on the table. I do love that type of work. But most of the product stuff is I come out with something, I build some anticipation on Instagram, I kind of gear whether or not there's a good response to it. And if I feel like, okay, let's do this, then I'll design it. I'll make something quick and dirty, 3D print some stuff, make sure that it's going to function properly. And then the fun part, I throw it on the machine and then I start tweaking with tool paths until I am satisfied. And then I kind of throw something out like these will be available in a couple of weeks. And typically when I post something up, I'll post 100 torch holders up. I'll sell those 100 torch holders in 2 days because I have big gaps of people anticipating a drop of something. You know what I mean? So it's kind of how pre-orders are absolutely brutal to go through, especially when you have 100 150 pre-orders and you have to deal with keeping track of everybody, making sure that you don't miss anything. PayPal likes to tie your money up and put it on hold when you do pre-orders and you don't ship quick. So I kind of quit messing around with pre-orders, even though everybody wants to pay so they get a spot, because slots in the past haven't been guaranteed.
Right.
So it's just kind of how I try and do it. I worked in a really cool shop. It's called Ouroboros Fabrication with a guy named Nathan, and he did a lot of aerospace welding. I recently started machining in like the last year and a half ish, started doing aerospace machine work and stuff, and learned a ton of stuff from that guy. And also learned a ton of stuff about myself too. And working in environments like that and kind of understanding, it's really awesome to be in an environment to where somebody doesn't care about the cycle time or the speed. They care about the quality. So if you're not like breathing down my neck saying, I don't care what it looks like, we just need to get it to the customer. That's the type of environment I can't be in. I have to be able to fully control the aesthetic of the part and put out my best work. So just that, and then, being in the automotive fabrication world and doing exhausts and stuff like that, same concept. People pay for looks. People pay for good looking welds. You know what I mean? People pay for bad looking welds too, but yeah. I try and make them look okay. So, yeah.
And that's always been my hang up too, is people want it like quick, fast, and in a hurry. And it's like, I don't like to do that type of work. I like to put more detail into it and, attention to detail. And make sure, it's fully functioning and it's going to work and it's going to last and it's going to look good, because once again, you're putting your signature on it. That's what you're going to be known as. If people see my work out there and they're like, well, who the hell welded that up for you? They're like, oh, Jason down the street. He's like, well, yeah, I don't want that guy working on my stuff. Well, I mean, that's what the guy wanted. I gave him what he wanted. He paid for it. I don't like to do work like that. And I've turned down jobs. I'll be like, yeah, I got another buddy that, he can stick stuff together for you. Go check, call this guy up.
Exactly. I think the people that are complaining about price are the same people that are complaining about speed. They want it done quick, fast, and in a hurry. They don't care what it looks like, and they think it should cost $10.
Yeah.
Those are the people I try and make sure I scare away.
Yeah. I just did a job for a guy a couple weeks ago, and I kind of gave him that thing. He told me exactly what he wanted, and I was like, okay. I said, I'm going to be honest with you. It's probably going to take me about 2.5, maybe 3 weeks to get this done for you. And he goes, I don't care how long it takes, but when I come pick it up, I want it to be done right. And I was like, oh,
Absolutely.
thank God.
Yep.
Perfect. And he was willing to pay for that. And, so I did it right. I made sure everything was nice and clean. It's something that he wants to pass on to his grandkids and stuff. So take your time with it. Do a good job, and he's going to be a repeat customer. And those are the type of customers that I like, that they give you the time and the space to perform your craft.
Mm-hmm.
But then
it's almost the same concept as artistic. You have like full control over the artistic creativity that you put behind something.
Artistic freedom. Yeah.
Whether it's like a tattoo you're getting put on your arm and you trust that tattoo artist to lay down something beautiful, or maybe it looks like a stick figure, but you're definitely trusting somebody to deliver quality.
Yeah. That's my tattoo. I actually searched out for the right tattoo artist for like 6 months. I mean, like I did research, and then once I found the person, I was like, I found a couple potential people, and I was like, I just started following their work, for a little bit. And I was like, okay. And I just started weeding people out of the process. And then I finally came up with the guy that I wanted to, to do my tattoo, the flag that I have on my arm. And I was like, that's the guy that's going to, because that's his signature. Once again, it all goes back to how they do their work, how they perform, the level of quality that they're putting out. And once again, you're going to pay for it. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. It's like, well, it's only going to take you a couple hours, but you're not paying for the hours. You're paying for the knowledge and the tools that I've amassed to be able to do the work.
Yep. Well, it's like somebody coming in and saying, oh, well, the machine time on this part's only 7 minutes. Okay. Well, it would probably be a heck of a lot longer if I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It took the time to learn this craft, learn this skill, learn how to be efficient at it. The money to invest in the equipment used to create what you're saying take 7 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like, man, it might be 5 welds, but there's a big difference between 5 welds from somebody who just started welding and 5 welds from somebody who's been welding for 5 or 10 years. Mm-hmm. So it's, I 100% agree, and I can relate, and I appreciate the need for quality in whatever field you're in.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's a big thing, and it's that a lot of people kind of lose that touch. They're just going out there to do the work, and like even when I was in the field, I had that mentality, and it was like, somebody's paying me to do this job. I'm going to do it well, and I'm going to do it like if I was installing this set of stairs or this set of railing at my house, or if I was paying somebody to build this gate or guardrail or, this, whatever the case may be, whatever I was working on, I wanted it to be something that I would be proud of, and that's kind of how you make a name for yourself going out there, because the type of work that you're putting out. And I mean, there's a big difference between, shoddy work and quality work.
And it's just a crazy thing to me to think that there are these huge big name shops out there that are making millions of dollars a year, and the quality they're putting out is subpar at best. Mm-hmm. And it's like, man, you have this dude that's working out of this tiny little, 500 square foot shop that's putting out some of the nicest work that exists. And then you have some guy that's in a multi-million-dollar facility with the best equipment around and all the money to pay the best welders out there to do the work. And it's like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
This is not adding up.
I've got one of my students, and he just left. He walked away from a company doing automotive exhaust systems because the guy wouldn't let him perform to the level. He's like, just bang it out. And he's like, people aren't coming here for us to just bang out their exhaust systems. They're paying for that artwork. They want the nice color, the detail. I watched your video on, doing the exhaust pipe and how much time and effort you put into prep, because I mean, that's going to make or break your weld. I liked what you said in that video is, half the time people are just fighting bad prep work.
Yep, absolutely.
That was kind of his
120%,
thing.
And they wonder where's the skill?
Yeah, why is this weld not turning out right?
I have skill, I can do this.
Yeah.
But what's going on?
Yeah.
I love it because I get DMs on Instagram from people that are like, "What's going on, man? Like, I followed your video to the T," and then I'm like, "Okay, did you skimp out on any prep work? Be honest." I didn't Scotch-Brite the tube. There you go. There's layers on top of layers of weird stuff on tube, how it's processed that needs to come off. And that could induce arc wander and all types of crazy stuff that would kind of resemble bad material, but it's literally just a 5-second process. If you're going to take the time to prep your titanium like it's a medical piece of, a medical equipment, then take the time to prep your stainless, because it's not mild steel. You know what I mean? Like, it's still a it's still a piece of material that needs that proper preparation.
Yeah. And I like the fact that you cleaned your filler metal too, because that's a big one that a lot of people skimp over. It's like, especially with, I mean, you didn't touch on it with aluminum, but I mean, like aluminum is a big one because you've got aluminum oxide, which regenerates itself every 24 hours. So if you clean a part today, same time tomorrow, you still got that aluminum oxide's reformed. It's back on there. It's naturally occurring. So if you think that, you get this brand new tube of 4043 or 5356 filler wire that comes in, guess what it's got all over the exterior of it? Aluminum oxide. Dirty. And people are like, you don't need to clean that up. The weld will burn it off.
Okay, well, what's floating around in your puddle, man?
Yeah.
What's the weird stuff floating around in your puddle? That's coming off your filler.
Yep. And they're two different melting temperatures. Like your aluminum oxide is like 3,600, and then your pure aluminum's 1,200 degrees. So you've got those little floating impurities and stuff. And people are like, I don't know why my welds turn out like this. You're skimping on your prep work. Clean that stuff up. Hit the filler wire with Scotch-Brite. Wipe it down with some acetone or dechlorinated brake clean, and you'll see how much better that weld's actually going to flow.
Absolutely.
Because when I do my TIG demonstration for my students, they're like, man, when are we going to get to the welding? And I was like, hold on, I'm showing you the important part right now, because like 80% of what you're getting ready to do is all in the prep work. The other 20%, that's the welding. That's going to go by quick. If you want
that 10% prep work, 90% welding, then your weld's going to look like you did 10% prep work. So absolutely. It's definitely an 80-20, 90-10, however you want to slice it. It's
heavily
reliant. People don't understand how important it is. And then people that practice on dirty material, they're not taking the time to prep to practice. It's like, man, you're kind of messing yourself up here because you're not taking the time to prep the material the way that it should be when you're actually welding a part. So like all these weird negative effects that are happening because you're just grabbing stuff, tacking it, welding it, like you're not fully getting that experience. You know what I mean? So it's kind of weird when you go to weld a part and you actually take the time and you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
I can actually do this pretty good.
I get them all the time. They come out of the booth, after they've been in there welding up coupons, and they're like, hey, how come my welds aren't turning out, like yours did in a demo? And I was like, well, just looking at your piece, I can tell you didn't spend much time cleaning it, did you? Well, no, I did. I just figured we'd skip past that part, because I want to get as much time welding as I can in, while I'm at school. Okay, I get that. You want to spend some booth time. You want to get some time under the hood. I get that. But here's the price you got to pay, for shoddy, performance. You got to get that stuff clean.
I get that 100%. And I know that students are, depending, there's good teachers out there and there's bad teachers out there. And I believe you're a very good teacher. And I've seen a lot of very poor teachers out there too, that, and it's hard. It's hard. I can't completely blame it on anybody or their mentality or anything. It's hard. But when a student wants to get in as much hood time as they possibly can, that student also possesses the ability to potentially come in earlier and prep material or prep it on their own time. Go buy a $30 or angle grinder from Harbor Freight and prep some freaking coupons before you come into school. And then bam, you can spend that whole time welding clean material.
Yep. It's
all about how much you want to put into it. And I know if you have time to go to school, you have time to prep coupons for 20 minutes before school.
Yeah.
So
I've had a couple of them because my lab is separate from my classroom. I'll be like, man, I'm missing like 2 or 3 students. I'm like, where are they? The first day this happened, I was like, these kids are like, they're never late. They're always here early. So I was like, I went into the shop and they were in there cleaning and prepping material and getting their booth set up and everything. Kind of lost track of time. I was like, hey, come on in here. We'll do attendance. I mean, there's kids in there like that, and they're the ones that I think they're going to go the furthest because Absolutely. they're putting in the unmarked time, the time that, they'd be at work not getting paid for it. I used to do the same thing, man. If I knew what I had to do the next day, I'd get into work 20, 30 minutes early and just start laying out my tools, unpacking the gang box, getting everything set up. And then, as soon as the time clock hit, all right, it's time to go to work. Everything's already laid out. The prep work's done. Let's get into it.
And if it's your own booth that you're working in and you're there all the time, or you're rotating with somebody else or this, that, or the other, man, you have a little toolbox, you take pride, you keep it organized, you come in a little early, you get set up, you sweep your floor and make sure you put all your stuff away at the end of the day. And it's exactly right, man. Like when I was first welding, I wanted to be as good as I possibly could be. And that was not going to be accomplished by just welding at work. So I wouldn't eat. I would eat in 3 seconds and then take the next 30 minutes and I just run beads and weld just scrap from work and stuff through my entire lunch hour. I'd come in early and weld, I'd stay late and weld. I'd buy a machine and weld at home. You know, if you're in the position to do so, which technology is advancing at such a rapid rate that quality power supplies for DC and AC and DC welding are so freaking affordable now that a lot of people can get them in their garages. And if you're fortunate enough to be able to do that, it's super helpful to be able to practice at home. And then you can come to school and you can kind of compete with the kids that don't want to actually put in the work.
Yeah.
And you can be like, oh man, what are you doing? Why are you so good? Putting in the time, man. You know?
And that's where, like, I've got a guy that comes in, and that's usually the first question, or he comes in and talks to the class. That's his biggest question. You know, he'll ask him, he's like, who's the best welder in the program? And it's usually, you know, everybody kind of looks at the same kid, man or woman. And then he'll follow that question up with, okay, that's your best welder. Who's the welder that spends most of the time in the booth instead of slacking off or doing this, that, and the other thing? And everybody looks at the same person. Does that tell you anything?
Absolutely.
So there you go. I mean, that's boom. You know, you got to put the time in. And it's just like, you know, when you get out and you get into the field or in the shop and the work, it's going to be the same thing. You know, you're always going to get out what you put in.
100%. And, you know, when I was that age, whether these kids are going into, you know, welding class at 18 or it's in high school or it's college welding or whatever, I didn't possess the discipline to be able to do what I can do now. And, you know, I'm not too far off from there, but I just wanted to talk with my friends and kind of mess around. And that's just, I wanted to socialize. I didn't want to be dedicated or put the time in high school. I dropped out in 10th grade. You know, the beginning of 10th grade. So I completed 9th grade in high school. And I regret it because I had to relearn a lot of math and a lot of different things that I have to use daily. But you got to have that mentality. And sometimes at a young age, you haven't developed it yet. And it's unfortunate. But the kids that do, you can definitely see how rapid they develop.
Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, like, damn, I didn't realize that you had dropped out 9th grade. Because there's a lot of math that comes along with that mill that you just picked up. Because I know that the program that we teach, I mean, they're probably in the classroom 80% of the time learning TIG and points of tangency and all these, you know, or did I don't know. I think I said trigonometry. They're going through trigonometry and all that.
Yep.
That's a lot of math in there, like a lot of advanced math.
And thankfully, a lot of CAD can sort out some like really complex trig, but at the same time, I'm doing math all the time on paper. I'm trying to figure stuff out. You know, there's a lot of equations for feeds and speeds and surface feet calculations, this, that, and the other that are pretty in depth. I mean, they're legitimate formulas that you have to use to practice to make good quality cuts and get good surface finishes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But thankfully for YouTube and books and online information, the world that we live in currently is so amazing. I mean, there is no excuse not to be able to do anything short of, you know, disabilities or certain things. And even though you have people that are missing legs that run faster than people with legs, you have people that are missing hands and no vision, or they were born without hearing and they get like a cochlear implant. Now they can hear. And these people are just the way that you can adapt as an individual or a person and overcome these obstacles is absolutely amazing. So when there's somebody saying, oh, well, I've kind of hit the peak with my welding career, I say, start over, man, because you didn't hit the peak. Nobody's ever perfect. You're never a master. I mean, you can be great and you can be a teacher, you can be certified, but there's always things to learn in life and in certain crafts.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because you do get the people that they're cocky and they think that they've mastered welding. And I've had people that, you know, once they find out I'm a welder, they're like, oh yeah, my dad or my uncle or whatever, they were a master welder. And I was like, what is a master welder?
I hate that phrase. I hate that phrase. I'll be honest.
When I first started, I got into teaching. One of the career guys, awesome dude. And he probably didn't know any better, but he's like, yeah, you know, my uncle, he was a master welder up in Chicago. And I was like, what is a master welder? Is that somebody that's like mastered every single process? Or, you know, they're just good at what they did, or they had all the tools to do it? Or, I mean, what I've never seen a master craftsman at anything, because even the guys that, you know, that I look up to, they're still not where they want to be, you know?
I think anybody who has the drive to constantly improve is never happy. They're never where they want to be. They're always looking further in the future. They don't lift their hood up to be like, that looks good.
Yeah.
They lift their hood up to say, no, well, that's ripple spacing's off. That toe looks a little funky. I need to tighten it up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you don't have that mentality, man, it's hard to crush it. You know what I mean? It's hard to just like get after it, make it happen, get really good, really quick. But yeah, the whole master thing blows my mind. Oh, you're a master plumber? You're a master electrician? You're a master welder? Okay, well, then I must be just, you know what I mean? Like, what you're putting out and what you're calling yourself, they're just not going together.
Yeah, they're not going hand in hand.
I don't know if it's like a degree or like a like a union thing.
Where do I sign up for this master welder program? Because I need to get in on that. I've never seen anybody just kind of like lift up their hood and, you know, take it off and set down the gloves and be like, all right, that's it. I've reached my peak. You know, I've never seen it with any process.
Yeah, well, as soon as you think that, then you start going backwards.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, you start regressing at that point because there's always that's the one thing that I've stated I really like about welding. I really enjoy and love about welding is the fact that it's never going to be perfect. And if you think if you're getting close to thinking that you're perfect, humble yourself and switch processes.
Absolutely. You know, you hand me something tell me to stick weld or do some flux core. You're going to say, man, you've never done this before, have you? I'm going to say, not enough to be good at it. And I don't claim to be either.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing I like about teaching is I get to mess with all the different processes. So I'm never 100% with one process because by the time I'm start getting back in my groove, we're on to the next process.
Yep.
But I get every term, you know, I get exposed to all the, you know, stick, MIG, TIG, flux core, the different alloys and stuff like that. One thing I've never messed with is titanium. That's something that I want to give that a shot. I don't even think I've put a tack weld on titanium yet.
It's fun, man. You'll like it.
It's something that I want to mess around with. I've seen it done. We did a video with Jeff Ray and Hefner Performance, and he did a titanium exhaust for a Harley. And I mean, just as I was going through kind of listening and watching him kind of go through his spiel on how he does things, I was like, man, I want to give that a try, but not on that exhaust system you got going on right there. Because if I burn a hole through it.
A lot of the titanium tube that you can buy is only 1 millimeter wall. It's only 039.
Yeah.
So it's sticky and it's awesome. It's an awesome alloy. You definitely need to practice and keep, you know, you need to be welding titanium quite a bit to, you know, be really consistent, like unobtainium welding. He's welding stainless and titanium all the time. Mm-hmm. And to develop like the muscle memory of, you know, dabbing your filler rod and kind of just being super accurate. Cause you have to like put some crosshairs on your filler rod and smack it right in the puddle. You go anywhere to the left, right, up and down, and you're applying quite a bit of force to your filler rod to pull it off of the part, and you can see where you pull it off the part. Mm-hmm. So it's a really cool alloy, cleanliness wise and everything else. And the coolest thing is with these new flood cups and these crazy, you know, in some cases trailing shields. I don't use trailing shields, but with the number 20 cup, man, you can weld titanium all day long with absolutely zero oxidation, a great purge, and it looks fantastic. So
I think I might have to get one of those kits. I think Tycon sells their scrap kits.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just like off-cut pieces or, you know, random pieces and stuff, and then the filler wire.
Their kits come with a couple slices of tube, typically the same diameter, a couple pieces of flat sheet, I think it's 039 flat sheet, maybe a little bit thicker, and then a couple pieces of filler rod, man. And it's awesome to get that in a little bag for like $20 or something, and you can experiment with, you know, welding titanium. Like, that's unheard of.
Now I'm definitely got to check it out now. I've got no excuse. It's just something I've always wanted to mess around with, but I've never been in a situation to weld anything titanium. Like most of the time when people have me work on projects or build stuff for them, it's either stainless steel or aluminum. You know, one of those three. It's the most common ones.
Well, it's the most I think cost effective. When you start getting into titanium, there's a lot of dollar signs there, and people have a big wallet to have full titanium exhausts or, you know, downpipes and dump tubes and yada, yada, yada. It's expensive. The material is expensive. The time it takes to weld it is extremely expensive to do it right. You know, I can weld a piece of 3-inch diameter stainless tube out real quick but your post flow is way longer with titanium. Your attention to detail, your speed is a little bit slower. So, it could be 3-4 times as long to weld a 3-inch titanium joint is in diameter 2-wise than it would be to weld stainless. So it's like, it could be 3-4 times as expensive at the end of the project, so it's cool though.
So you're paying.
Definitely enjoying, I'm going to get into machining some little parts and pieces for some of my products out of some grade 5 titanium. So it'll be fun. It's awesome because you can color it, you can anodize it, you can heat tint it, you can do all types. You can laser engrave different colors in it. It's I love the material.
I didn't even know that you could do different colors and laser engraving and all that stuff on it.
Yeah, so it's basically like an electric anodizing process. You use a power supply, you use distilled water and different forms of acid for different things. You can use baking soda, blah, blah, blah. And you have an anode, you have a cathode. Typically, your cathode has the same surface area as your part, and you can dunk tube in it, and different voltages give you different colors. So you're like 18 volts, you can make your titanium purple. 10 volts, and don't give me plus or minus a couple volts. I'm winging this off the tip of my tongue. 10 volts, I think you're gold. 60s, you get into some greens. And anybody who's listening, I know this isn't perfect. So if we want to whip out a chart, I will Google it right now and go back over this, but just, it's close.
Yeah.
So, and the cool thing is you can, put a sticker over it. People are like, oh, wow, how'd you do that? And you can put your sticker over, stick a sticker on your titanium tube and then anodize it and then peel that sticker off. And underneath that sticker, there is no anodize. So now you have a contrasted, beautiful titanium logo. And then the rest of your tube is whatever color you want, or multiple colors, or layers of stickers, and you can have camo patterns. It gets real artistic real quick.
That's freaking awesome. I had no idea. I got to get into this. You're going to have to send me some links to that, because that's interesting as hell. I didn't know you could do all that with it. I thought it was just all different temperatures of heat, like 500 degrees, you get up in your blues and purples, and 300 is like your straws. So very similar, but you're just using different voltages for roughly the same effect?
Yeah, kind of. You're basically just developing an oxide layer on the titanium, and then like light refraction is giving you your different colors on that specific material. It's super cool. Heat tinting, sometimes you just can't replace that look, but when you want to get into some really precise, you can tape your welds off with like some powder coating tape or different types of tape, and then anodize it, and all your welds are perfectly silver, and then everything else is like bright colors. You can get pretty crazy with it. There's a lot of dudes out there that are making some gorgeous stuff that way. I'm gonna
have to hit you up and get some resources on some of that stuff. That sounds really neat.
Yeah, it'd be a cool project for the kids at school. If you could get your hands on some samples and anodize it and kind of play with it, that'd be sweet if you could work it in.
Now, do you do your own like powder coating and anodizing and all that stuff, or do you kind of send that out?
So I'll anodize titanium stuff, and I do have the setup to anodize titanium stuff in the future moving forward with any machine parts. I did powder coating myself just out of my garage for a couple of years when I first started. It's a dirty process. I wouldn't recommend doing it in your garage unless you had like a legitimate booth with filtration and a respirator, obviously. But you can get some great professional results out of literally a kitchen oven and like $120 gun from a cheap, like an Eastwood powder coating gun. It's pretty impressive. Obviously, I'm a big advocate for buy what you can afford, buy what does the job. If you can't afford Knipex pliers, or you can afford Snap-on wrenches or whatever, get what you can. Eventually you'll have the skill and the income to afford the stuff that you can. So I started off with cheap stuff, Eastwood powder coating guns. You can get real crazy real quick and get into a couple $1,000 powder coating gun, but you really have to dictate, is it worth it? Does my part require what this gun offers? Am I making any money off of it? You know what I mean? So coating wise, if you can do everything in-house, man, it's the absolute best way you can do it. But doing everything in-house, inside your house, basically, that sucks because you just don't have the space. You need different rooms for different processes, and ideally I won't grind in the garage with the machines and the computers and stuff in there, because I don't want any of that stuff getting in the fans or getting on the electrical boards. So having like a designated grinding room with ventilation would be awesome. Having a designated room for powder coating would be awesome. Another room for like really fine, like clean anodizing processes. You know what I mean? A room for laser and 3D printing. You know, we're just getting into out of my budget. I'd have to start like using the rooms in my house as different.
Yeah.
So
no, and I'm the same way. It's like every time like I'm in my garage, because that's kind of what I operate in, and I got to do grinding. It's like I got to go outside, move the cars, bring the table outside, and like do all my grinding out in the driveway, and then kind of clean up any. And I don't do a whole lot of heavy grinding, but for the grinding that I do, you know, blow all that stuff away so you don't get the rust marks in the driveway and all that stuff.
Yep.
And it's a pain in the ass because like the garage isn't just my work area. You know, I've got other things in here, so it's kind of. Sometimes it gets a little dicey, so, you know, I just make sure I bring it outside. But, yeah,
even if it's a full-blown fab shop, man. Even if it's a full-blown fab shop and you're just welding and grinding hard all day long, like grinding right on your bench or getting grinding dust all in your toolbox drawers, like, I just can't do it. I got to separate myself. You know, it'd be awesome if somebody came out with like a bubble, like a blow-up little inflatable bubble that you can just go in, and then it actually has like a fan on top and a filter and everything where you can just go in there, do your grinding, zip a little plastic door down, and then zoop, come out. You know what I mean? Like isolating that is fantastic. I hate grinding unless it's clean grinding.
That's I don't know if you ever watch Alex Steele, but his he does all the blacksmithing work. He's got a completely separate room closed off from his entire shop. And that's where he does all of his grinding, whether it's with the belt grinders or, you know, the heavy 9-inch grinders or, you know, even the small 4.5-inch angle grinders. Like anytime he's removing stock, it's in that room. And he's got, I think, filtration in there. He's got a vent set up and everything, but they're still using papper suits and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that dude doesn't mess around. He moves a lot of material, and with all that different Damascus and stuff that he works with, inhaling that stuff or just being dumb without a respirator a few days could really mess you up. At that old shop I was at Ouroboros Fabrication, we had the same thing, designated grinding room. We had all our belt sanders in there, angle grinders, bench to grind on. We'd also throw like our, 25-ton presses and stuff in there, just stuff that was ugly out on the floor. And in the roof, you'd have multiple fans, and all those fans would be connected to ductwork, and those would just go out of the roof. So any of the fine particles would get pulled up and sent out. But with a beard and whatnot, now obviously you can get real technical and make a lot of people mad. But with a beard, no matter what, you have a respirator on, it's not a perfect seal, and you're still getting stuff in your lungs. So I try my best without having like a full papper with like a seal around your neck or something. It's hard with the beard to stay as safe as you possibly can. And people I don't think people get that.
I started using the papper system at school because I've got the beard and everything. But prior to that, like, especially when I was working union, anytime we had to weld, grind, polish, anything to do with stainless steel, we always had to wear a respirator. And I never understood why until I got into teaching and learned about the dangers of hexavalent chromium. And we always had to be clean shaven.
I'm not good at wearing respirators and welding stainless steel.
Yeah.
I like the smell and the taste of chromium, and it's not good.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good
at all.
You can always
tell the
difference.
I know. I'm gonna get a papper. I've been more careful, but beard plus mask plus hood plus glasses just equal. Sometimes being uncomfortable is a great way to stay safe, but being comfortable is a really good way to get some issues down the road. And luckily, I haven't had the exposure enough to actually, develop, knock on wood, develop any real negative effects, because I will correct my improper methods before, I'm not going to do it for 20 years and be like, oh, I can't go back. I know that what I'm doing in some cases is not safe. And wearing eye protection, I'm great about that. That's why I stopped wearing contacts and I started wearing just my glasses, so I can't forget. PPE, man, it's a beautiful thing. It's absolutely intended to protect you. And anybody who's welding without gloves, I'm sorry, guys. Even if you're welding super tiny 035 filler rod and you're just one hand without a glove on, you're going to see some seriously negative side effects after 20 years of doing that. Feed your filler rod through your glove. I can, you can.
Yeah. It's nothing new.
And I know everybody's guilty of it. I myself absolutely have welded without a glove to feed filler rod, but I've seen cancer, and I've seen a lot of crazy things come about with just skin cancers and stuff like that personally. And I've seen the negative effects. I've seen just things cut off and all types of skin grafts and all types of nasty stuff. So if you can, wear your gloves.
And I mean, you bring up a huge point, and that's why, like, because Rush Kane just released the UV blocking sleeves.
Yep.
And I think that's awesome, and I hope that it helps out a lot more people, because a lot of people just don't want to wear the big, heavy, bulky welding jackets when they TIG weld. I completely agree. I've got a light jean shirt that I'll wear, or like, just some sort of garment to keep my arms covered up, because I had stage 4 skin cancer, melanoma skin cancer, on my back. Luckily, it wasn't anything to do with welding. It was just growing up here in Florida and being a pasty white Irish kid, bad genes, right? But that's something you don't want, man. Like, when I got the results back and they were like, you need to come in now because it's stage 4 and it's probably already starting to spread. So they had to pull, a big excision out. I mean, it was the size of a small Nerf football, and pull out a lymph node. And after that, it kind of dawned on me, that's what sun exposure's done to me. I should probably be protecting myself from the welding arc that's 10 times brighter than the sun.
Yep.
And I met a guy that was an air gas rep, and he came in to do some weld demos one day, and it looked like somebody just took a freaking knife and just hacked at his arm. And so I had to ask him, I was like, hey man, what can I ask, what happened to your arm there? It's all scarred up and stuff. I couldn't avoid it. And he's like, oh no, man, glad you asked. He says, this is why you want to wear welding sleeves or a jacket or cover up from UV rays, because this is for years of me having that I'm a tough guy mentality, and I don't need to wear welding sleeves. I don't need to wear a welding jacket. I could just go without, eventually, you get that nice welder's tan and stuff and you quit burning. Yeah, that's, you're developing skin cancer at that point. So, I mean, protect
Absolutely.
yourselves, cover yourselves up, block the UV rays, cover up any exposed skin. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass sometimes because you're right in the middle. You just got to do something quick. Have your PPE in the shop. Wear the appropriate PPE for the task at hand. I've got like a little chart in my shop that kind of lays out the task, whatever they're going to do, the most common tasks. And it's got little check marks for everything that they need to, all the PPE that they need to wear. So if they're ever questioning, hey, I'm using this roll-lock grinder, I'm using a 4.5-inch angle grinder, I'm using the iron worker over here, what PPE do I need? They can just go back, look at the chart, and then kind of put little checks and boxes and say, okay, here's all the PPE I need, and then they can get dressed up and do the appropriate task.
See, that's fantastic, especially for kids that are new to the trades and going through school and whatnot, is because if you're on a lathe and you think that you need to glove up with some crazy leather gloves or something on a lathe, that's bad business.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing what you truly need on your body for the process is absolutely important. You have the PPE warriors out there that are just talking smack to everybody on Instagram that isn't gloved up or whatever. And you'll see somebody operating a lathe or something, and they'll be like, "Oh, well, why aren't you wearing a big old apron that's all draping down and hanging? Or why aren't you wearing those big old gloves?" And it's like, guys, you got to separate the tasks here. That could pull my hand in and rip my freaking arm off.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain things where you can't do that. And I'm not the absolute best about UV sleeves. I'll definitely probably pick some of those sleeves up from King Kid. I'm not a huge fan of the big bulky ones. They just leave rashes on my arms. Yeah. Grinding dust gets in them, and then just abrasively removes skin from my biceps. So it's a good thing. I love that people like that with a lot of influence are coming out with products to keep people safe.
Yeah, they're actually fantastic. Comfortable. I do want to ask you a question now that we get into that, because I mess around with the mill and the lathe from time to time, especially the manual ones where, like all your CNC ones, I mean, you've got a big door that closes because you got all that coolant that's coming down. But the manual mills and lathes and stuff like that, what do you recommend as far as like hand protection? Because if you go in barehanded,
absolutely.
At the end of the day, I get all cut up from just handling the parts while the machine's not in motion. But I'm constantly glove on, glove off, glove on. So I mean, what's something you could actually use to protect your hands, but if it did get caught on a bit or something like that, or a piece of a moving equipment, it's going to break away and not take your hand with it?
So on the CNC machines, there are pneumatic, different types of door locks that automatically lock the door. You cannot open it when the spindle is on. But like you said, open bed machines, manual mills, manual lathes. By no means am I a machinist. I won't even claim to be. I can run both machines, manual and CNC, no problem, and make what I'm trying to make. But what I don't recommend wearing gloves. A lot of machinists wear aprons, and I've seen people's heads get sucked into chucks. So, and then you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
So what I recommend for your hands is just thick, good, X mil layer, X amount of however many mil layer, thick rubber gloves. Just same things you would wipe your parts down with acetone. You can pick chips up. You can remove chips. You won't cut your fingers up. I mean, obviously, if you're like being aggressive, you could definitely cut through a plastic rubber glove.
Mm-hmm.
But you can operate your parts. You don't get coolant on your hands because a lot of coolants and different cutting oils and stuff have reactions
properties
to your skin reactions. It's what I do. I've always been taught by people far older than me and with way more experience that wearing anything that can get sucked into an end mill or a spindle or a lathe chuck or anything, whether it's your hair, you have long hair and it's not in a bun or ponytail or something like that. It's the same concept. Any clothing, loose clothing, baggy clothing, necklaces, anything like that. You don't want anywhere near anything that's turning and has horsepower to rip your whole body inside of it.
Yeah. And the machine doesn't have eyes. It doesn't have feelings. It doesn't care. We had a guy at the shop when I was in the Marine Corps. He got pulled into a 12-foot lathe because it's North Carolina, it's chilly. So he had his sweater on and he reached over his lathe while he was doing something. It's a big dude. He's over 200 pounds and it pulled him right over top of the lathe. Luckily, as it spun back around, it didn't continue pulling him because it kind of just pulled the shirt because it caught the sleeve of the shirt and it was twisting the shirt, and then somebody else was able to hit the kill switch in time before it wrapped him the rest of the way up in there. And I've seen some of the accidents that are on YouTube. You guys got some time to kill and you got a good strong stomach. Go check out some CNC accidents on YouTube.
Oh man, I have too. People disappear.
Yeah,
they turn into lots of pieces. So that's the crazy thing is I believe in some processes, especially in the U.S. with compliance that needs to be upheld. You need dead man switches on some of these things.
Yeah.
As soon as your foot comes off the ground, that machine turns off. In China and a lot of manufacturing overseas, those don't exist. You just spin around with the part until you die or somebody hits e-stop.
Yeah.
So, I mean, man, if you could just stand on something that when your pressure is released or it pulls you up, boom, it turns off. It's really easy. You know what I mean?
I watched a video of a guy that got pulled into a roller and it just had him by the foot and was just spinning him around. I'm not going to get into detail. It's on the internet if you want to find it.
No,
but
I know.
Yeah, it's
I know.
Gone.
That just sends chills down my spine.
But I mean, yeah, and I think that's one of the cooler things about as technology gets better, safety's becoming, more at the forefront, how to protect yourselves, because I get that stuff all the time when people are like, oh, you're a welder. And I was like, yeah. Well, oh yeah, my dad was a welder, my grandfather was a welder, and he said, he can't see, he's almost blind and everything because of the welding. And it's like, I don't know, man. I just had an eye exam a couple weeks ago. I've still got 20/20 vision. So, I mean, if you protect yourself, if you do things the right way, use the appropriate shade when you're welding for the task at hand. You're not trying to weld with sunglasses or, do the safety
bottles.
Squints. Yeah, beer bottles or safety squints while you're trying to tack stuff in place. You're probably going to protect your eyes.
Yeah.
And that goes same thing with the hearing.
I think that's a big problem, man.
Yeah.
I think that's a big problem for kids that want to get into this, but they're constantly told, oh, that's dangerous, or that's going to give you cancer, or that's going to make you go blind. It's like, man, these are just tough old dudes that were too good to wear PPE and they suffered some consequences.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm a light shader, whatever you want to call it. I weld on 9 a lot, but a lot of my stuff's only 60.
Yeah, I was going to say you're doing
amps.
50, 60 amps all the time for the most part.
I'll crank it up when I get real hot into some aluminum. But again, I wear glasses, and that's not because I decided to weld on a number 4. Mm-hmm. That's just because for the last 20 years I've wore glasses. I just have bad eyes, but they haven't gotten really any worse, so that's a plus.
Yeah, I get people all the time that DM me on Instagram. And they're like, especially one guy, he's like, hey, I want to teach my kid how to weld. He's like, I know how to weld, but I mean, you teach for a living? What's the best way to teach him how to weld? He's interested. He sees me in the shop tinkering around. He wants to try it. What's the best way to teach him? Okay, step 1, teach him the safety. Teach him to respect the tools, show him what these tools can do. Watch the get on the weld.com, watch the grinder safety video, and then the oxy-fuel video, because I think those are, I don't want to toot my own horn, but those are two pretty in-depth videos that we did that are kind of safety-centric about those two topics. Knowing how to keep yourself safe and use these tools on a regular basis, that should be step one with any process that you're going to pick up, is learn the safety first.
Absolutely.
Because if you get injured along the way of the learning process, you're never going to be able to follow through with the rest of the training. So learn how to protect yourself first.
120%. And I believe that stands true across the board in everything in life. If you don't know how to drive, or you want to not use your blinker and rip in between lanes, one of these days you're going to hit somebody, or somebody's going to hit you. If you want to go hunting and you don't know where to point the muzzle of that rifle, or whatever firearm you're using, and you shoot somebody, that's the lack of learning the safety rules, safety fundamentals, hunter safety in general for literally anything. You're cutting vegetables. What are you going to do to not chop your finger off? Like, man, it's just like common sense in a sense, but it's more so like common sense, but you do have to learn the technical aspect to a unique process that's not just ingrained into you. But being safe is a very yes or no thing, and most of the time it's just a decision. Yeah. It's overlooked, in my opinion. Oh, no,
100%. I mean, that's most of the time people know what they're doing is not correct.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if I'm trying to lift a 3,000 pound something out of a car with an engine hoist, it's only rated at, 1,500 pounds. I know that's wrong, and I know that there's potential for failure. So the more I crank and lift that thing up off the ground, it's my own grave that I'm digging.
No, they beef those things up 10-20% because they know people are going to do that shit.
Yeah, I broke one in half before, so I don't trust any welds on any of those manufactured anywhere in the world.
Oh no, you look at that stuff and you're like,
they look like they're going to break.
Yeah, I bought a trailer and a while back, and took it home, and I didn't think about it when I picked it up, but I started going through and looking at some of these welds, and I was like, oh hell no. There is no way that I'm pulling this any further out of my driveway. I went through and cut all the welds back out and re-welded the entire thing. So I probably should have just built the whole thing, but I was getting a pretty good deal. But I was like, and it was a manufactured trailer. This wasn't like something that Billy down the street put together in his backyard and he was going to sell to me. I mean, this was like a legit trailer. And I was like, yeah, I'm not.
Man, there are very few trailers that I've seen that look good. Like good sound quality. Most of them are horrible. Aluminum trailers, boat trailers, anything to do with aluminum and production and people who don't take pride in their work. Oh my gosh. It is absolutely hideous. I don't know how many things I fixed just due to failures, because how did that even pass QC? Yeah. Like, do you not put a fillet gauge on there or say, whoa, like that's negative. Like that's not even convex. That's concave. There's even a weld there.
Yeah, there's no specs for it.
Let's stick that to the side. Throw another pass on it. Come on, man.
Yeah. Let's throw her out on the highway at 60, 70 miles an hour and see how she does.
Oh, I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. But then you have the guys that do some of the nicest marine, boat work and stuff out there, like Martin Marine Design. He does some of the most beautiful anodized aluminum tube welds I've ever seen. But you just have these, it's just polar opposites. Either you're like, it's going to fall apart, or it's just like jewelry. You don't want to mess it up.
Yeah. There's no in between.
It's hard. It's hard to find a good in between.
Mm-hmm. Well, cool, man. I think that about does it. So before we get out of here, tell everybody where they can find you, because I know you got a couple of things going on. So if people are more interested in your YouTube channel or your Instagram, or getting a hold of some of your products that you're putting out, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you at?
Yeah, so you can find me at Hourglass Ingenuity. That is HOUR_Ingenuity, and that's on Instagram. You can also find me at Hourglass Ingenuity, all one word, on YouTube. And that's kind of where I hang out. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I will reply to every single direct message that I receive. It might take me a couple days, but I will do it. And I appreciate anybody that wants to follow along.
Well, awesome, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, everyone. This has been episode 156 of the ARC Junkies podcast. Thank you all once again for listening. Don't forget to swing by and check out Brad's work on Instagram and YouTube. You can find me on Instagram at ARC Junkies Podcast. you can email me directly, show@arcjunkies.com. And don't forget to check out the new Arc Junkies website and pick up some new merch. Each order will receive a free Arc Junkies sticker pack while supplies last. Hit up arcjunkies.com. Stay safe out there, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.